Prospects to watch in three of the biggest games on college football Saturday: Georgia versus Clemson, Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, and Miami versus Florida. We're going to highlight the offensive and defensive prospects that you need to be watching out for. All of this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst. Shout out for being our everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Guys, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man. And what the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated, man. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to comment and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel over at Locked On NFL Draft. DP. I'm wired up today, baby. We have college football. I am wired up. We have Georgia versus Clemson. We're going to break that down prospect by prospect. We're going to go Notre Dame versus Texas A&M prospect by prospect, and then we're going to wrap this thing up in the Sunshine State. We have a Florida showdown. We have Miami versus Florida. DP, I woke up with it on my mind today, DP. Let's rock and roll. Locked On NFL Draft. Let's get this thing going. DP, let's start. Georgia versus Clemson. What team you want to start with? Which side of the football you want to start with? Let's talk.
We got to talk about Georgia, Keith, and this is a team that has so many prospects. You being the SEC scout over for us at the Draft Network. So kind of dive into a couple prospects that you know and think should be impact players in this game.
Yeah, I'll start it off, man. And I'm starting my one of my prized possessions, right? That's Mr. Jalen Walker, right? Everybody knows Mykel Williams, the edge rusher. He'd be top 5, right? Slated for a lot of people in their overall rankings. Mykel Williams, but I think Georgia, they showed something, and we know that they have a very deep rotation and they play a lot of players, right? And in the bit of film that I was able to watch of Jalen Walker, with him being a rotational player, I tweeted this out. I think he can be one of the best edge rushers in his class. Listen, his profile is 6'2", 240 pounds. That does not lean itself towards being older, prototype size and everything. But this guy has all of the goods, DP. So I'm looking for Jalen Walker, first of all, defensively. Obviously, I mentioned Mykel Williams, right? But you have the interior defensive lineman, Nazir Stackhouse. And then I'm going to list off on the defensive side of football before we switch to the offensive side. I'm going to talk about Malachi Starks. Who does he remind me of, DP? He reminds me of those combinations of like Minka Fitzpatrick a little bit, right? And he reminds for the Steelers, right? And what he does for the Steelers, kind of being that guy that can actually cover, but actually play free safety, strong safety, do multiple different things, has really good ball skills. So that's Georgia on the defensive side of the football, those prospects that I'm looking for. We switch out to the offensive side, DP. Obviously, Carson Bay. We need to know who's QB1, DP. Who is QB1? And this matchup will be able to go a long way against that. We're talking about good on good.
Keith, I think you mentioned Jalen Walker, right? You said 6'2", 240. A name immediately popped in my mind because we talked about it on our scouting meeting, but I couldn't figure out, I think I listed some names on the scouting meeting. Hassan Reddick is listed at 6'1", 240 pounds.
That's all I needed to know. I'm done. DP, that's the mic drop right there. That's the mic drop. DP, that's all I needed to know. I
just had to throw that out there for you.
I said I needed some comps. I just need one comp I can hang on to. I'm
Hassan
good.
Reddick.
That's the mic drop right there, DP.
And that's the guy that was brought in as a off-ball backer at Arizona during that terrible tenure they had with the GM. And they didn't know what to do with those hybrid defenders. And then they finally figured it out. They didn't pay him. He went to Carolina. Then he went over to, I think it was Philly for a little bit too. And he was one of the better pass rushers after he transitioned into that role. Hassan Reddick, Jalen Walker, that's the comp. Book it. Keith, I got to, you listed, Carson Beck. And they got some receivers. We have already talked about Trevor Etienne. I'm going to come back to the offense side for Georgia in a second. Cade Klubnik. It's the ball's in your court, brother. It's in your court. You know what I mean? When DJU was there, when DJ Uiagalelei, when he was there, everybody was calling for you to be the quarterback. Well, you got the job at the end of that season. You had the whole season last year. It was a tumultuous ride, some peaks, some valleys, inconsistent. This is the game where you can right those wrongs if you're Cade Klubnik. This young man was a 4x4. I think he's state champion in 4x4 in the 400 in track in high school. He's got a good arm. He's very mobile. He can throw with arm strength, but also with touch. Now has the game slowed down enough for you? Now, don't get me wrong. The game could have slowed down, but it might speed back up against Georgia. Like, we got to keep you slowed down and play at an even keel pace and get the ball to the playmakers. Name to watch on offense for Clemson, Adam Randall. I believe he's like 6'3", 225, 30 pounds. They call him Baby Julio. When I look at him, he reminds me physically of what A.J. Brown looked like at Ole Miss. He's battled, he's been inconsistent. I think he had some injuries early on in his career. Young man, 5-star recruit out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, my neck of the woods. Yes, yep. I look at him as like, you got to come out here and play to that. Play to that, not just the 5-star rating, but play to that size and physicality, right? Antonio Williams, their slot receiver. Young man got hurt last year.
Is he a junior or a sophomore? Junior. Okay, that happened quick, man, because I remember – man, that was fast. I remember when he first came in and he was like the most electric guy. Like, he was the guy that was the most, like, he seemed like he was the most productive, right? Like, he was their easiest.
He broke the mold that they had at wide receiver. It was all the big body guys, and he was the one who was fast, twitchy, route running, and so he can get plays done, get things done there. And I think this is the mismatch that I want to see if Garrett Riley, the OC, can devy it up, dial it up, getting Jake Brenning-Stool, who is about 6'5", 6'6", a big body receiver playing tight end, get him split out against some of these linebackers. Small Mundon, if Jalen Walker at 6'2" is playing off-ball back, you want to get that size differential in space and allow him to be able to attack and work in the passing game. They have they have enough skill position. Of course, our guy, Big Phil, right? Uncle Phil, Big Phil Moffitt, he's 6'2", 230. You're going to need him to get going too, but defensively, this is why I think Clemson can give Georgia some problems. DeMonte Capehart, Peyton Page, the freshman phenom and Peter Woods. They got another freshman. Well, both of them are sophomores. T.J. Parker. I'm telling you right now, this young man, Tamarian Parker, gave Joe Alt problems when they played. He was 18 years old against Joe Alt, getting ready for the NFL. He was giving him some issues. Got AJ Terrell's younger brother, Avion Terrell, who's a true sophomore in that secondary. I believe Shelton Lewis, RJ Mickens, and a guy I think needs to have a day. We talked about Small Mundon, talked about Jalen Walker, Keith. Barrett Carter, like, you got to redeem yourself and get back to playing the ball that the type of ball coming off of last summer that had you pegged as a first-round pick. Get back to that. This defense is loaded with talent. Now, if they can slow down Carson Beck in that offense, Cade Klubnik can put up some points, keep this game close going to the fourth quarter. Anything is possible, in the words and the voice of Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, with DP, you mentioned this Clemson defense, and you finished up with this slowing down this Georgia offense. I have to list off the prospects real quick for this Georgia offense, right? We talked about Carson Beck, right? Can he be QB1? And you know what? One of my more aggressive grades in this entire draft class entering the season, Oscar Delp. He's tight end 1 now. I'm looking for him to get a lot of touches, right, and him to be an effective, right, game changer in this game. Then you talk about their grad transfer that they got from Stanford, Ben Urasek, a guy that had really good productivity, right? When he had Tanner McKee at quarterback, it dipped off a little bit. He transferred, right? We talked about Trevor Etienne being a running back. Then I'm gonna list off this offensive line, some guys to look out for. Tate Ratledge, right? He's supposed to be the anchor of this offensive line. Gritty, wants to play in a phone booth, right? People like Cooper Beebe. I think he's an even more elevated version of that with even better measurable. Then you talk about their offensive tackles, right? Xavier Truss, Ernest Green. Then I'm going to switch to their wide receivers, DP, because it's very important, right? Arian Smith, speed guy. Dominic Lovett, right? I believe he transferred last year into the program. Shifty wide receiver, and then Dylan Bell. So that's this Georgia offense of the guys that to look out for. And all these guys are very talented. I think
real quick,
what you going to see?
I'm going to say the matchup probably I talked about Jake Brennan-Steele against these linebackers. A matchup that might determine this game is going to be Tate Ratledge versus that interior defensive line from
That's
Clemson.
why. Yep, that's why I wanted to list them off. It's gonna be big on big. It's gonna be collision on collision. I know that video. I don't know if you've seen it, right? With Jonathan Allen, pregame when he was talking to, hey, that's gonna be lock in, right? Tape your ankles. We about to get after it in the trenches, right? It's me versus you. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing. Where we going next? Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. Yes, we have another quarterback that's off the radar that we about to put him completely on the radar right now. Coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Tired after lunch? You're not alone. In fact, research shows that more than 70% of us hit the wall after lunch. Let a 5 Hour Energy shot help you leap over that wall instead of crashing into it. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it is the ultimate and perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. You can just try them all. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Riley Leonard, Keith Duke transfer to Notre Dame for Marcus Freeman. Listed at 6'4", 216 pounds. A guy that's mobile. He's got a good arm. He's gritty. He's tough. The same things you said about Brady Cook earlier this week. The same thing is applied for Riley Leonard. And this was a guy before he had the ankle. I think it was a high ankle sprain last year in the middle of the season. He was playing solid ball, and it was a guy that was projected to be at worst like a second-round pick because he has the tools and the ability. Now going to Notre Dame, the lights are brighter, the moments are bigger, and this is a big moment against Texas A&M, a team that will get into their defense and everything else, but you got to go out here and ball, and you got to go out here and make the plays. And Bo Collins, who transferred from Clemson, right? 2 ACC transfers coming into this program, 6'3", 205 pounds. I think this is going to be a big game for both of these guys to hit the ground running as those new transfers. And I want to see, Audric Estime was like the engine of that offense last year, right? Now he's in Denver, Colorado with the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how much we see. I expect to see Jeremiah Love, 6 foot even, 206, 210 pound, sturdy build running back. Can you get the running game going against that defensive line and defensive front for Texas A&M? This is a big time game for Notre Dame. I think they might be home, Keith. Are they home in this game?
Yeah, I believe so. Let
me see. I'm gonna double check. Oh no, they're on the road. Oh no, yeah, that's it's tough. Yeah, it's tough. You got to go to SEC country at night.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought you was asking. I thought you was asking was Texas A&M on the road. Yeah, Texas A&M.
No, you had it right. I had it wrong.
Yeah. Yep. Nah. So going there, man, and I'm gonna talk about Texas A&M DP because that was a team that was in my region. So listen, offensively, right? The issue was that they were always recruiting at a high level, but they appear to lack identity and any type of consistency across the board with Texas A&M. And with that being said, DP, you go through the depth chart. I evaluated these guys. They have talented players, DP. You're talking about Moose Muhammad coming back another year, right? And then you're talking about Cyrus Allen transferring in, Noah Thomas, right? The wide receiver who I believe some people have a 3rd round grade on. And then this offensive line, DP, which I think is a solid offensive line. I didn't see anybody that necessarily stood out right at this moment, but a good offensive line across the board. But we got to talk about who the guy that's going to get everybody having a conversation, and that's Connor Workman. Connor Workman, quarterback for Texas A&M, had one really good game last year. Again, I'll say this: he had a couple good games, but one good game against Power 5, now Power 4 competition against Miami. People went back to the film. I went back to the film. He had a lot of nice throws. DP appeared to understand the game at a high level. So you're going to be watching him against Notre Dame. You go out here and you beat the Golden Domers week 1. Right, you get the buzz going for Texas A&M, and then I want to transition to their running backs. Right, they have running backs, and they've recruited very well. That's why I say this team has recruited very well. It's always just been a lack of identity, like in a weird way. I don't understand, but they've recruited well. So talking about running back Le'Veon Moss, you're talking about Amari Daniels, and you're talking about E.J. Smith Jr. the son of Emmitt Smith, right? That's Emmitt Smith's son. Yeah, transferring from Stanford, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield and do some different things. But we talk about Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels, the guy slated at the 1 and 2 position. Le'Veon Moss is another 6-foot strider, fluid, right? Can do some different things. So I'm looking for him to make some moves, right? And I'm interested to see what happens in this. I believe Petrino is the offensive coordinator now, and for whatever he does in his own situation, right, his own situation. But as an offensive coordinator, he appears to understand how to get things going, right? He develops an identity. So if this Texas A&M offense, with the talent that they have, get moving in the right direction and just set a baseline of consistency, they can be very well. I mean, they can be very good. I'm sorry. And they can be very good because you switch over to this defense side of football, DP. And I know there's one name that you're familiar with, Mr. Nick Scourton. I hope you want to talk about him.
Yeah, a guy that can get after the passer, man. Like, you know what I mean? Quick first step, a lethal spin move outside, inside. He knows how to set tackles up. And in this situation, Notre Dame lost 2 tackles to the NFL last year.
Yep.
You lost Blake Fisher, your right tackle. You lost Joe Alt, the number 5th pick overall in the 2024 NFL draft. So putting new guys into that spot, this is going to be a tough task for them, Keith, especially when you get into just the fact of like getting a guy like Nick Scourton singled up one-on-one. Like that's where you don't want. That's what I said. Jeremiah Love is going to be pivotal. The legs of the quarterbacks will be pivotal, Keith, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're dropping back 40 times in this game and you're just letting them pin their ears back. Right? You got to run the ball, keep them honest, slow the game down against that defensive front. Because don't they have an interior defensive line? Is it Walter Nolan?
Yeah, they have so Walter Nolan transferred
out.
Ole Miss. Yeah, he was there, but DP, this defensive line is loaded. They have Shamar Stewart. That's why I said this team has recruited at a very high level. They have Shamar Stewart, who is a former 5-star kid who I watched on film. He can run, he can tackle. And you talk about being 6'5", 260 pounds, right? They have Shamar Turner, right, who I talked about, remind me of DeMarvin Leal. I wonder where they're going to play him to put him in the most, what I always say, the most athletically advantageous situation. But the guy has the goods. Then they have Albert Regis across the defensive line. That's their starters, DP. Names I'm familiar with. Malik Silla was another 5-star kid. Gabriel Brownlow Dindy was another 5-star kid. This defensive line, DP, is loaded. And I think if they want to bring it to Notre Dame, it's there, right? Like we talked about with Clemson and Georgia. I think this game is going to be like, hey, can Texas A&M, the route to success for Texas A&M is their defensive line dominates the trenches, forces Notre Dame to have to throw the football, right? But then on the offensive side of the football, they just put up consistency. They're just consistent in what they do. They don't shoot themselves in the foot, and they're able to move the ball up and down, not even up and down the field like you got to score 40, right? But just move the ball consistently down the field, string together some drives, touchdowns and field goals in every drive. You know what Texas A&M is, DP, the classic cliche. No matter what, in every drive and a kick, right? Whether that's a punt, a touchdown, or a field goal. And everyone in that type of situation, and they'll be good.
No, I love that, Keith. And like I said, even going to Notre Dame, and they got some guys on the deal. Of course, we know Benjamin Morrison, right? A top 10, top 15, projected pick. Let's say 6 foot, even 190 pounds, a junior guy that's one of the better cover corners in all of college football, Keith. But and then he got his running mate and that flanks him up top. Xavier Watts, 6 foot, 203 senior, that is absolutely a dude in that secondary. But I think they got some underrated guys that for whatever reason doesn't get a lot of love on that defensive front, and they got to transfer. So Riley Mills, number 99, 6'5", 295, plays that kind of 2-eye, 1-tech for that defensive line. This guy's disruptive. 3 sacks, 9 QB hits, 20 pressures last year, but he also had 27 run stops by himself for that defense. Howard Cross, 6'1", 288, a guy that could play inside. He could play kind of that odd front defensive end as well. Then they went out and got RJ Oben, 6'3", 262, pass rusher, edge rusher. I think he's a redshirt senior from Duke, a guy that in the last 2 years has 8 sacks and a fumble force. So this defensive line is going to be, they have the talent to get upfield, to stop the run, get upfield, create some penetration and chaos. and trying to and muddy things up in the pocket for Connor Wegman. And if you can do that, that puts yourself, because I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to Moose Muhammad and those reps of Moose and Benjamin Morrison whenever they line up against each other, because that's two dogs going at it, Keith. Benjamin Morrison is super competitive. We watched him compete against Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, right? We watched him compete against some of the best that the country has to offer. Moose Muhammad is a physical, sturdy build wide receiver that plays like that. I want to see how the contrast of styles really plays out and who comes out the victor when those guys match up in this game.
Yeah, 100%. With DP, let's keep this thing rolling, man. What are we on to next? Miami versus Florida, right? We're going to talk about this conversation. We know I like this, the city of Miami, DP. We're going to talk about those Gators chomping away, man, and who's going to start off hot in the Sunshine State. We're going to have this conversation coming up next.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge, and I mean huge, wins. So keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. The Florida Gators, Keith, they got a quarterback going into his second year after transferring. Graham Mertz, he transferred from Wisconsin last offseason, played the 2023 season there. Solid. And if I always say this, how many times I said this on this podcast, man, if one of those Big Ten teams could just get a 4 or 5-star quarterback, they'll be fine. Well, Wisconsin got one. It still didn't work out because of the offense that they ran. Didn't really fit him, but he looked more comfortable in Florida last year, not going year 2 in Billy Napier's offense, having Eugene Wilson and Montreal Johnson in the backfield, having weapons and speed in the state of Florida. Big year for Graham Mertz. Big year for him. I think he's a senior this year as well. He has the arm talent. He's a decent athlete from what I've seen on tape. This is a big year. This is a big game because at the end of the day, like, Billy Napier needs a good season this year, because I don't know if you last another season if you don't have a good record in the SEC. But for Graham Mertz getting ready to head off to the NFL, you throw your name in the hat, man, and say, listen, I'm one of those quarterbacks that if you can't get this guy, you can't get a guy in the first round, or you don't want to take a first-round quarterback, you can get me in the second and the third, because I have the ability to play up to that level.
Yup, 100%. DP, I'm going to name off one other guy on their offensive line, Mr. Austin Barber. I believe I gave him a mid-round grade. DP he wasn't bad at offensive tackle. He has some movement skills, fluid, athletic guy. So definitely be looking out for him as he's going to have to protect the blind side. But you mentioned Graham Mertz. I'm right there with you. And then also, DP, we're going to jump ahead to the 2027 draft, DP. You know what we're going to do? We're going to jump ahead. Florida might have a little bit of a Tim Tebow and a Chris Leak situation going on with Mr. DJ Lagway. So be looking for this guy to play. He can quickly become a face of college football quickly.
Another reason why Graham Mertz needs to play well early.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have that situation flip on his head. Now, DJ Lagway is the starter after week 4. You need to play well early.
Yep, no, 100%. So definitely check that out. As far as DJ Lagway being a true freshman coming in there and him being a change of pace guy. But defensively, DP, there's a couple guys. One, Cam Jackson. I know he made the Senior Bowl watch list. Mr. Tyreek Sapp, when I was down there in Miami, I was able to watch him. Very appeared to be mature kid, right? Like ready for the moment. Played a lot of football from St. Thomas Aquinas, right? So Florida kid, right? He's really, really ready for the moment. He said, you know what? This was he told me. A lot of people underestimating us, but we're ready to rock and roll. So definitely look out for those guys. And lastly, cornerback Devin Moore. Watched some Florida last year, talented kid. And I'm gonna mention his running mate too. I'm sorry, Jason Marshall, another kid that came in very highly touted. Had some ups and downs as far as play, but kind of trying to right his wrongs and get everything back moving in the right place because he definitely has the athletic ability. So that's Florida as a team, DP. I don't know if you want to talk about, not even one, let's get into Miami, DP. Let's talk about Miami. I think we start at the top, right? I'm going to start with your guy, Mr. Cam Ward.
Cam Ward, 6'2", 223, super experienced quarterback, a guy that can change arm angles and levels, athletic, good arm talent. Like we said it ad nauseum on this pod. Cam, just be consistent throughout the season.
Yep.
And you will get to where your talent can take you. Like, that's really it for Cam Ward, because he has the ability to be a legit first-round quarterback. The same, it's crazy. We watched Bo Nix get drafted top 12. We watched J.J. McCarthy get drafted top 11, 10, whatever. You can't, like, physically, Cam Ward is up there on their level. Athletically, physically, all of that. And you could see him going that high as well. So, but now we just got to see him be consistent. And he has and it's crazy enough, they already had a young beast running back in Mark Fletcher at 6'2", 225. They said, you know what, let's double down, go get a junior from Oregon State, Damian Martinez, my Damian brother, Damian Martinez, 6 foot, 232. But don't get it twisted, guys. Even though he's 230 plus, he's nimble-footed. He's quick. He's got good open field speed. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run inside between the tackles. He can run the zone, work the zone game as well. One of the better backs in college football. And our offense in Oregon State with DJU last year and all the Jack Velling and everything like that, and those guys who transferred to Michigan State, he was the engine for that offense. And now for Miami, you're going to need Damian Martinez to lighten the load for your guy that is Cam Ward.
Yeah, I'm with that, DP. And listen, there's a lot. And with Cam Ward, I made a statement. I'm going to make it again, right? For him, it's not about the highs. The highs are as any high of any quarterback, right? In this draft class, it's about his lows becoming average. He can't have low lows. He has to have average lows. And I think that's the problem, is that his high has been high and his low has been very low, right? Stock market, we know all the stocks. He's a very volatile stock right now, right? We need him to mellow out. And honestly, instead of being, he doesn't have to run crazy like NVIDIA, DP. He just has to be consistent, stay in the middle like a Walmart or something, right? Just be Mr. Reliable. And I think that'll be okay for him. So we'll see how that goes. But I want to talk about Miami from the defense's perspective, right? Well, first of all, I want to mention this. I'm sorry. I was about to skip over a wide receiver, DP. And they have the transfer from Houston, I believe, Sam Brown. Did he transfer from Houston?
Yep.
Sam Brown, who's really talented, DP. Has some skills. I gave him a mid-round grade, so definitely wanted to highlight him.
Actually, they got 3 receivers. You just about to mention Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo. Jesus. Like, they got 3 legit wide receivers to go with that run game at Cam Ward.
Yeah, and the tight end too is not too bad. Elijah Arroyo, I remember him from college recruiting, right? Recruiting him at LSU. A very fluid guy. He just needs the targets, right? And if he could get the targets, I think he can make a name for himself in the class that we already said was very deep at the tight end position. But I remember him being a very fluid mover at the tight end position. We wrap this episode up, DP. I want to talk about the defensive side of the football. We talk about another young guy, DP, Ruben Bain Jr. So we talk about 2026 draft. Watch out for this young man, right? He's supposed to have all of the goods. He can be a game wrecker himself, but I also want to
talk first overall pick not next draft, but the 2026 draft. Keith, he might be first overall.
Yep. So definitely check out that young guy right there. Then I want to talk about this kid who I expect to play significantly, who plays solid at Tennessee. He's a transfer, Tyler Barron. I thought he had an opportunity to declare for the draft, but he didn't. Probably got some of the NIL money, right? And decided to go to Miami. And talented kid, has some stuff to him, DP. And so watch out for him along this Miami front also, that can make some plays for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, this team, and they're right now, they're ranked in the country. I believe they're 19th, and this is a team that in the ACC they can make some noise, right? If you can stay consistent, you play even football, balanced football, get the run game going, still get the passing game going with Cam Ward, you're gonna be in a position, and they, like you said, they have defenders. Ruben, listen, Ruben Bain, like literally watching him as a freshman, I felt like I was watching Khalil Mack. You know what I mean? Like he's 6'3", 275, 270. This is a freak, man. This is an absolute freak at 19 years old. Yeah, he's probably a shoo-in for a top 5 pick in 2026. If you can get the ball and you can put up points and make teams throw the ball, you let that monster hit out the cage and let him just pin his ears back and dominate the line of scrimmage and get upfield. This Miami team could cause some problems in the ACC, man.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. We kept that one hot, baby. That one locked and loaded the entire episode. I told you we back. We kept saying we back, but now we back, right? Like it's in between back, right? And it's being back. We back right now, DP. So, Miss, I want to say shout out to everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. College football is back, so you know where to come tap in with your guys. Listen, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my running mate, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back. We back, DP. We are back, baby. College football is back. I missed you. I missed you, college football.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since January, guys. Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Listen, guys, on Monday, we're going to recap every new updated quarterback rankings for the top 10. We're going to talk about those money makers and bag fumblers from week 1. And you know we got to bring the game ball back into the locker room. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.